live in Toronto.
Mhm.
You Alex now.
Yep.
Okay. I am reading about Canada. Situation there is, let's say, we talk about it. Let's say that.
We can talk about that a little bit. Canada's interesting, right? So I'm half American, half Canadian. My mother's French Canadian, which is a whole different thing. And we were actually just in Montreal over the Easter weekend. We took my family there to go see my parents, and it was like going back to the old country, right? It's like everything is different. Everything is several hundreds of years older. Everything works on a very different pace. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And I see some great rowing. How do you say it in English when you row on a boat?
Okay, so those are canoe paddles. Although I did used to row. I rowed in high school, and then I stopped rowing because I stopped growing, and everybody else kept growing.
Okay.
Turns out being tall actually really matters for rowers. So I picked sports where that mattered less. But no, those were wedding presents. They were some old wedding presents that we got. Those, I don't think either of those have ever touched the water.
I thought it was one of your tools to navigate the Web3 difficult waters. That every day there is something new.
It's either that or you're the what's the name of the guy navigating the river through Hades with the paddle? Maybe some days it feels like that.
Alex, and today I was telling you before, there are so many news today, and one of the crazy, incredible news is that the Coinbase NFT marketplace is out there in beta. So I just started to check. I didn't see exactly what's in there. But I think it's very interesting because Coinbase, I mean, it's a huge player. A lot of people will jump in. NFT maybe will go more mainstream. What do you think about it?
I've only seen one thing on Twitter about what's actually in the Coinbase NFT marketplace so far, and it's that they have a comment section.
Yes.
All right. Here we go. I can tell you where the action's going to be. No, I think this is great. I think this is pretty similar to how we think about all of commerce generally, which is that like marketplaces are a great place for buyers and merchants to come together to think about things, and it's great when there are lots of marketplaces. So welcome, Coinbase. Like I'm super excited to see what happens here.
Let's see how it goes. Alex, tell me, for people who are not familiar with your activity in job at Shopify, what do you do exactly at Shopify?
So I've been at Shopify 2 years now. Prior to Shopify, I had this interesting path there. I worked in venture capital before this for this guy named Chamath. Some of you may know this guy.
Of course.
Character, hey Chamath. Prior to that,
sorry, Alex. He's always I always watch his chat with Jason Calacanis and Sachs and so on. Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
How is working with him? I mean, he looks very smart.
Yeah, this is a whole time. We should talk about this at the end of the show because there's actually some really good stuff we can talk about in there. But prior to that, I actually came from. I didn't think I wanted to be in tech at all. I'm not a software engineer or anything. I originally went to school in life sciences, but then I started grad school and then realized immediately that this was a huge mistake for me. This is not what I wanted to do. So I left and to start a startup. And that's how I got into this world. And the startup didn't work, but I got hooked. Started getting into the scene and writing a newsletter. And that started to get read. And before I know it, I ended up in Silicon Valley working with Chamath. And that's how I kind of got into this world.
Got it.
A few years later, right around the beginning of the pandemic, I ended up coming to work at Shopify with my old friend Kaz, who had recently come to Shopify himself to go run the money team. He said, Alex, you should come to Shopify, come work with me. And I need help with a whole bunch of things. But one of the most important things I need some help on is figure out what on earth we're doing with crypto. There are all these people inside Shopify who all really care about blockchains and what they can do and what their wallets can do and all this stuff. We don't really know what we think yet. So come in here and help us figure out what we think. This ended up being very, very fortuitous timing because not long later, I would say a couple of things really happened to change, I think, pretty significantly the trajectory of Shopify and how we went from sort of crossing, like ships passing in the night with the crypto industry to all of a sudden us finding that our mission in life was very, very, very aligned with the purpose of a lot of crypto. And so I want to tell you about this discovery because it's really interesting.
Interesting.
But before we do, so I want to actually open with a question for you, because I want to get everybody's opinion on this question. But I want to ask you.
All right. I don't know if I'm ready. Okay.
There are no wrong answers. So here's the thing. So we have there's this whole thing. It's called crypto, right? And it means everything to different people. I say it's you have the Bitcoiners over here who are like, crypto is about sound money and it's about the sovereign individual, but it's about this. And then you have the DeFi people over here who are all building dApps on building the new finance system. And then you have these NFT collectors over here who it's like, this is all about community and it's all about this new interesting ways of fitting in and standing out. And they're all kind of right? But if you had to say like one thing, which is, if we're betting on all of this,
right,
what is the thing what's the bet you're making? Like, what has to come true for you to be right? Do you have does anything come to mind? Like, because I ask everybody this question because I want to know.
Okay, I just give you the feedback since I turned 50 years old this year, so I'm officially old. And I remember when I started to jump into the Web 1, let's say, internet at the beginning. And for me, it was oxygen. It was freedom. It was this idea of, not traditional media, because in Italy, for instance, the media were very controlled, so you could express yourself. So that was the thing. And then during these years, after 10 years on social media, I feel so trapped by the big companies. Every platform can ban my account in any second. So I'm really into this, let's say, Web3 world, horrible word, but like this new web, or the ownership is the ownership that I'm really interested to get back my ownership and my relationship with my community. That's where I try to bet.
Okay, so I love that answer for a couple of reasons, and I'll give you my answer, right? Because I think it overlaps a lot with what you said. But first of all, I love that you started this out by talking about your discovery of the Web 1, right? The original web, where it was years ago, and all of a sudden, like in the late 80s and the really early 90s, it's like the internet was there, but it was really hard to see it. Like, you couldn't touch it. You couldn't, like, unless you were very technical, it was hard to really explain what it was to people. People were like, is it like a TV? Is this information superhighway? And then all of that changed with the web browser, right? Because suddenly you could do stuff, right? All of a sudden it's like, you could do, here's an image, here's this. You could actually start behaving. And what became really clear was that the internet is a kind of behavior, right? Sure, it's a kind of technology and it's all the stuff we can do, but what matters is what we do. Right? Like, the internet was a kind of behavior. And if you wanted to understand what the internet was all about, it's just like, look at people's behavior, right? And it was very clear to see that, like, the internet was a kind of behavior and that behavior was going to win. Yeah. And sure enough, it really, really did. Right. And now fast forward, to today, I really have a similar idea about crypto or Web3 or whatever you want to call it, which is, first of all, it's like, this is a kind of behavior, right? And specifically, I like to think wallets change how people behave, right? You've seen this happen, I'm sure. It's like you have a person and then all of a sudden they get a crypto wallet and it's like they change a little bit. Like, wallets change how people behave, and that behavior over time is going to win. Yes. That's my definition for what it is you're betting on, right? And I like this because it has something for everybody, right? It starts out the conversation by bringing everybody together and saying, okay, like, you can be in this Bitcoin camp or this camp over in Web3 or this camp, and we can all agree on this, though, which is like, fundamentally, this starts with behavior, and your behavior starts with your wallet, because your wallet starts with the foundation of you on the internet, which is, I have this public address and I can sign for it with a key pair. And this behavior of ownership, like you said, it's like, I can own something. Like, I really, in this meaningful way, own my ability to sign for something, is the foundation of this new kind of behavior. Yes. I think we all think, right, before we get into the different aspects of how we're all playing in this, I think we all agree that we believe that this behavior is over time going to win.
Absolutely. I love it. I love the behavior angle.
And so why am I sort of opening up with this? Like, why do we care about this in commerce, first of all? Like, I remember, not so long ago, a couple of years ago, when I was looking at blockchains. There was no Web3 back then. We didn't have that word yet. Looking at all of this, I remember thinking about this as like, oh, this is really great. And this is about payments, right? Like, this is about how, people on e-commerce websites are going to be able to pay differently. Like, that was kind of the extent of how I was thinking about it. But what I was not really seeing yet was this idea that, let me put it this way. Over the past couple years, let's say 3 years, something enormous has changed in e-commerce, right? While we were all distracted with the pandemic and with the supply chain and who knows what else, something really important changed, which is, all of a sudden, all the buyers out there in the world going around doing their things with their favorite merchants, they have wallets now. Boy, does that make a difference now. Because, like, if we think about it, it's like these wallets are going to change how they behave. And specifically, it's going to change the way that they do commerce. Not maybe all commerce, but the most important kinds of commerce. The commerce that's really, really personal to you, right? The commerce that's about your identity, and the commerce that's about who you are and how you present yourself and how you fit into groups and how you stand out within those groups. Like the really, really best parts of commerce that Shopify especially cares about. And I think that our merchants really take pride in creating a kind of commerce around these most meaningful, most personal parts of you. The ground has moved beneath our feet just now because now everybody has wallets, and those wallets, right, are going to change how we present ourselves on the internet, right? This is the
sorry, Alex, to interrupt. Give me some examples or practical application of that.
Yeah, well, before I give you practical applications, I want to give you something that's actually more important than a practical application, which is a feeling, right? A really, really good feeling, right, about why this matters, right? Because you know this, right? Feelings come first. Right. Yes. Practicality comes later. Right. It's like the feeling comes first. So if you look at all of these Web3 communities, let's say a lot of the great NFT projects, and I'll give you a specific example, which is a project called Doodles. Right. Doodles is this incredible brand and community of people who all have doodles in their wallets. Right. And this is a part of them. Right. They're now a part of this group. This is a really interesting part of them. What they really like to do is things like if you're a part of this group, you can connect your wallet and get access to, maybe it's a private Discord, maybe it's a private group, maybe it's an event, maybe it's something you get in and you're like, oh, okay, like this is a part of me now. Like this is a really, really fun challenge that now, like I have this part that I have this, I'm a doodle holder. Like this is a part of me. I can now do this thing. I can get into this party. I can get into this chat. I can go do this thing. And I'm leading, and this is a really great feeling, right? When all of a sudden it's like I am signing with my wallet that I have this, and now I can do these things, and boy, is that a good feeling, right? And like whenever you see this feeling, right, commerce is right around the corner, right? The most important commerce is right around the corner of this feeling because they're really, really intimately related.
That's interesting.
Getting back to this doodle story, I'm running really off track here, but maybe a month and change ago at South by Southwest in Austin, Shopify worked on this really, really cool project with the NFT community Doodles, where they set up right around the edge of the South by Southwest grounds. They set up this huge pavilion called the Doodleverse, right, which is full of these amazing colors and bright lights and very cool experiences that you could walk into and do. And everybody could go into this world. It was this really interesting world. But if you were a doodle holder, you got a special badge, right, that you could tap on things. And if you were a doodle holder, all of a sudden the world would change, right? Like lights would flash and bubbles would start blowing. And this voice would say like, welcome, doodle holder 6213. And you'd see something incredible happen in that moment, which is people's eyes would just light up with this incredible joy, right? This joy of being seen, right? And this joy of fitting in and then standing out in this group. And you see that you look in, like if you look at them in their eyes, like that feeling of joy, you're like, that is the most magical thing. And two, crypto wallets are a part of how people are going to make this a part of themselves now. Like people with this identity in their wallets are a new kind of person who is full of this kind of joy and this kind of association with a kind of feeling and a kind of ownership of something. And so our job is to go bring commerce to those people because that feeling is going to win. And so we want commerce to be there, right, with those communities and with those people.
Question, Alex. Yeah. I'm obviously a believer, I have my NFT collection, blah, 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 but I try to give you the kind of objection that I get every day, which is, all right, but why I cannot do this? Why a brand cannot reproduce the same emotion and feeling without NFTs? In this case, I buy an NFT and that NFT give me access to a certain experience and whatever. What is different now?
Oh, okay. So this is a great question. And first of all, I want to say that like you don't need NFTs to create this feeling and this experience because the great brands have been doing this forever. Yes. Right? Like this is not a new thing. This is the oldest feeling. Right? Like this is one of the oldest feelings in the great brands and the great commerce, right? Which is this feeling of fitting in and then standing out, right? As this aspect, like let me tell you about a specific Shopify merchant that we love called The Hundreds. They are a streetwear brand from Los Angeles that has been around for 20 odd years, right? Like way before crypto, before NFTs. They're a streetwear brand, right? And what that means is they are all about this idea of creating meaning right? Around here is this very special t-shirt design, this very limited edition print that's full of meaning and full of reference. And when you wear it, you take on some of that meaning yourself. And then you walk into a party and you wear that shirt, and somebody else wearing a different shirt sees you wearing that shirt and they go, nice.
Yeah.
Right? Like that feeling, right? It's like, it's really, really special. And so the world's greatest brands really understand this. And when you walk into their store, right? Think about the feeling of walking into a really special store, right?
Yeah.
What happens? Someone behind the counter sees like your hoodie and they're like, oh, nice. Like you got that. Like, hold on, I got something for you in the back, right? Like you're definitely buying something from that store, right? Because you feel awesome, right? Like the world's greatest brands really, really understand that this is just what people are like. This idea of like, you have this part of your person that is what you're wearing and what your identity is with and what community you're part of. And that is an input for commerce, right? You bring this with you when you go shopping, and that is really cool. But here's the thing. There's no good way to do this online. Not yet, anyway. This is really hard. And you would think that, oh, this is an easy problem to solve online. Like, can't the store just sort of know who you are? It's like, well, they kind of can. They can make a customer account that sort of gets an idea of you, but that's not the same thing, right? It's like, first of all, it's not really you. Like your customer account at one of these stores is like this little impression of you that the store gets to create, but it doesn't really know. But more importantly, and I'll tell you the more important reason why these NFTs like really matter so much is because anything like all of these ideas, like trying to create an impression of the buyer, like, oh, here's a buyer, they're walking into a store, we want to make something really special for them, is really limited by the creativity of the storefront, who can say like, okay, like how can I actually write in code some sort of mechanic for how I want to treat my buyers, right? I want to create a program, and I can like, you can make some stuff. And I don't want to say that none of these programs work, but like they're pretty limited. They're pretty like, even the world's greatest brands online have a really hard time making a storefront that feels like it recognizes a social contract. You know what I mean? It's like you almost never see this because it's really hard to do. But then I want to sort of tell you in contrast, right? This thing that has started happening on Shopify this year, and you see it, you're like, oh my God, this is right. Right. And it's what we call token gated commerce, which is I show up to the storefront, I connect my wallet, and there's an NFT in that wallet that all of a sudden unlocks a special product, right? Or unlocks a special early access to a drop, right? And first of all, one, you see people's eyes light up when they do this. They're like, yes, right? Like, I got it. Like, I got into the thing. You see like, okay, that's the magic happening. Like, they really, really love what they're doing. But more importantly, like what I really want to emphasize is that like, what can happen here is not just limited to the storefront and their limited idea of like, here's this sort of social contract around the conditions of my term sale. It's like that NFT can stand for anything, right? Because it can like, what is an NFT? An NFT is a smart contract that can mean a lot of things, right? The genius of NFTs is that they have these human readable images on them, right? That say what? Right? They say, I'm fitting in to this collection, and then I'm standing out with this particular version of the collection. I have this doodle. I have this atom bomb, right? I have this Krypton goon, right? I have this one. It's like, first of all, that unit of like fitting in and then standing out, it's like, that's the unit of all the most meaningful community, the most meaningful commerce. And you've just created this new place that is in public on the internet. It's generally programmable, right? So anybody can go make this mean anything, right? And now all of a sudden, the storefront has a way for you to show up with almost anything, right? And if the storefront or on Shopify, like any number of app developers and agencies and all the armies of creative people who go build storefronts, who can look at this and say, okay, I can start building all kinds of token gated experiences. Maybe I want to make my store that says, if you connect your NFT, I'm going to let you make a 3D print that is a really cool rendition of your NFT. Maybe I want to make it so that you get a 10-second head start on a game to get into a flash sale drop. Like it can be anything, right? And it feels really, really authentic, and it respects this kind of social contract of who is what, who is which bomb, who stands out, who is what. And you see this and you're like, okay, this is the start of something super, super special, right? Because what is happening? Wallets are changing how people behave, right? Because they're not showing up as a random customer. Yeah. They're showing up as me, right? I'm showing up with my atom bomb squad to the 100 store, right? I'm showing up as myself, right? They're changing how I behave, and they're making this commerce more challenging and more delightful and more special. And you know what? That behavior is starting to win. It's tiny at first. It's really small, right? But it's growing and it's growing. And you watch this and you're like, this is going to absolutely take off, right? There's not a chance this isn't going to work.
You made me think, Alex, also about the piracy problem. Yesterday, I read Netflix retesting saying that they had like, I think 700,000. They lost 700,000 clients because of the Russia market. They lost the Russia market, but also they have this password sharing problem. Blah blah blah. I was thinking, well, but if you had your subscribers connecting their wallet, then this problem disappear in 1 nanosecond. Or maybe also, or maybe not. I don't know. But this is definitely another maybe side effect, positive side effect of a wallet. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm glad you brought this up, because you remember maybe a year ago, or honestly still, you have people who look at this and they don't really get it. And they're like, I can just right click, save the picture. Like, no, I stole your NFT. It's like, okay, come on. Like, it's not about the J, like, that's just a human readable handle for what's going on, right? What matters is that you can sign for being associated with a particular piece of meaning, right? That is on the blockchain in public, called I'm the owner of this doodle, right? And I can prove that. And to do that, I can go get into spaces, or I can unlock, I want to talk about this idea of utility with you a little later, because I think there's a really interesting discussion we should have about that. But it's no, it's the JPEG isn't the point, right? The point is that with my wallet, I can present who I am in this very powerful new way. Does that mean that this is 100% fail safe? No, people can't people can't intercept with phishing attacks. No, of course not. There are all these new super. You have to be careful, right? The challenging thing, but also the important thing about Web3 is that you're really the one doing it, right?
Yeah.
It's a challenging world to get into. But I think the great part about it, though, is that there are so many people who want to help, right? Who want to teach you, here's how you manage your keys. Here's how you can spot a message that you should not sign, right? Because it's phishing. Here's how you keep yourself safe on the internet. It's this incredible community of people lifting each other up and bringing people in, right? What's great about those kinds of communities, again, just to bring it back to Shopify, is anywhere that you see community like that, commerce is just around the corner, right? Because commerce is what really takes those communities of people and all that energy and all that goodwill and turns it into something that starts lasting. Right, because now you're actually doing commerce together. You're building something more lasting and more meaningful together. Right, commerce has always been a part of that since the beginning of time.
But you said, Alex, that utility is just let's say one function of all of this. I was, when I launched my collection, I said, well, this is a utility NFT, meaning you can access to my events, to my books, to my community, to I was a table tennis professional player when I was young, so I did an NFT that if you win it, it's free, but if you win it, you can play table tennis in real life against me. Some
That's
silly
really cool.
things like that.
Oh, that's really cool.
So it is something like a utility, but it is, it's the way of engaging with the community. Help me to explain it better. And utility is only maybe a superficial way to say it.
Okay, so this is I love this question, because first of all, a lot of this whole discussion around do your NFTs have utility? Does your community have utility? It's this is a really good question to answer, because it's how you had there were a lot of projects and these NFT, initiatives that started out and then they didn't really go anywhere because there wasn't anything to them, right? It was just I want to get in at the floor price and then I want to sell for more money. It's okay, well, there's nothing there, right? There's no meaning, there's no community, there's no anything. And people looked at that and there was the problem with this is there's no utility. So what we should do is we should go a 180 direction. We should make lots and lots of utility into these tokens. You should get access to everything you're describing. All that is really great. I really want to emphasize that I love all of that. And I think that's the part of the future of all these communities. The thing that I want to sort of reframe for people, though, is that utility is not really what comes first, right? What comes first is the community, right? And the meaning. And in this case, what comes first is you and your audience and your community, right? If all you wanted to do is create an access token for if you win this auction, then you get access to this event. It's you don't need a blockchain to that. If you want to do a one-off thing, right? You can do that over an email. You can do that. For any one individual thing, it's you don't need a blockchain. But the reason why this matters, though, is because this isn't happening in isolation. This isn't happening in a glass dome, totally cut off from the rest of the world. It's a part of all of the meaning, right, of your community and of your collection and all your everything. And that significance is part of what's important for people, right? That's really, I really, really want to emphasize that it's if your NFT has utility to get you into the party, it's like it presupposes that you want to get into the party in the first place. It's like, I'm pretty sure what's important is the party, right?
Yes.
Not like the fact that you're using a blockchain to get like a password to open the door, right? Like, what's important is that all of this community, and in this case, the NFTs are this perfect way of organizing and getting this community to self-organize and behave in all these interesting ways. It's like, that's what's important, right? Like the meaning is what's important, and the utility is like has value because of the community, not the other way around. Like, that's the part that I really want to emphasize. It's like, if you're starting with utility, you're going to find that you're like, why am I using a blockchain again?
Good
right?
point.
Like, it starts with the meaning and then goes from that.
It's for me, I've been to a horrible, I live in UK, and I went to an Italian restaurant here in the UK, and it was so bad, Alex. It was so bad. I can't even describe how bad it was.
Oh no.
But
well, I don't want to make that. I don't want to make this a food review podcast.
Imagine that restaurant sell a utility NFT, and if you have the NFT, you can go to the restaurant.
Yeah,
great. I mean, that would be a utility, but the restaurant is horrible.
You hate the restaurant. That's right. That's the thing. It's like, this has no utility to me. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, that's right. Whereas on the other hand, it's like, imagine if you have a community of people who love cooking for each other, right? It's like, now you're talking, right? Or a community of restaurants, or a community of anything. Like, all of these things. This is, again, do you need a blockchain to do this? It's like, well, no, in the sense that people have been creating community and doing useful things with that community forever, right? But what is important about this is that this is a way to do this in a way that really, really uses the power of the internet, right, to its full potential. Like, that's what's so interesting about this. And bringing it back to e-commerce, similarly, it's like, in order to unlock that amazing vibes of like being in the 100 store and like getting the really, really like special merch, it's like, really, like, people are really good at this kind of communication. It's like, for true in-person stuff, it's like, yeah, people have been doing this forever. But as soon as you enter the internet in this dimension of how is it that you get a computer to understand the vibe that's going on here, that's where these things really show their potential, right? Like, I really like to explain it to people. It's like, when I show up to a storefront and I connect my wallet and there's an NFT in there, and then the storefront changes because it sees who I am and it unlocks a gated product. It's like, what's really happened there is that like the store did a vibe check on me and was like, yep, like, you got it. Like, I'm going to take you in back and give you the special merch, right? Like, that's what's so cool about this. It's like, it's really, really hard to do a vibe check with the computer on the internet, right? There's something very special about that that's hard to replicate.
And probably I can start to build a lot of interesting things on it, because if you hold my NFT for 1 year, I unlock you more stuff, or I based on your behavior. Did you list it? You didn't list it? What did you do with the NFT?
That's right.
So I can reward you in several ways.
Well, that's what's so amazing about this, is that because this is software, right? This is software on the internet that people can like really build out of code into anything they want, that you're not limited to just like, oh, like, here's the limitations of what the account software said you can do. Right? It's like, no, like, it's actually this infinite game of possibility for anything that you want to create. Like, if you really go back, and this is actually like, let me bring this back to Shopify for a second, because if you go all the way back to the very beginning of Shopify and sort of like what our purpose is here and like what it is we really care about, I think Shopify is really this recognition that commerce is best when everybody gets to show up as an owner. Right? Like, this, right? It's like, if you think about the opposite of that is like a convenience store. It's like, you walk in, you buy toilet paper, you get out. Or even if you go on the one very, very large e-commerce marketplace that's orange and black, you go in and you buy some stuff, you get in, you get out. It's like, look, this is fine. But none of you acted like an owner here. And so nothing meaningful really got created, right? There's no relationship. There's nothing that lasts here. On the other hand, right, like, when you act like an owner, like, commerce is really special. And that's where the very best commerce happens. And so let me ask you this question, which is like, on the internet, like, what does it really, really mean to be an owner on the internet? It's like, pretty practically, I can tell you, it's like, being an owner on the internet means you can take a little web property and you can code it, right? You can code it into anything that you want, right? If you can code it, like, in a really meaningful sense, you're the owner of it. And if you can't code it, you're kind of just visiting, right? Like, most of the non-coders of the world, it's like, really, we're renting from the developers, right? They're the ones who actually really built this place. And Shopify is really this recognition, which is like, look, there are all these amazing merchants out here in the world, and some of them code and some of them don't code and some of them code a little bit. But ultimately, if we can give them the power of building their businesses and really making them theirs easier and better and more effectively, and really using all of the amazing tools that the internet has, then all of commerce will get better. right? Commerce will get more special. There'll be broader relationships. There'll be better brands. And sure enough, I think this vision has more or less come true around this idea of like all these amazing merchants are able to build these incredible connections with their buyers. And, like to the extent that Shopify has helped is because we've helped them use the power of code and of the internet, right? Now, if you look at Web3, right, it's like, well, here's some more superpowers, right? Here are some new superpowers that you can use to code anything into anything you want, right? Around that uses this idea of like, here's a public open like source of the public state we all agree on, right? Go use that to create really cool experiences. It's like, yeah, like merchants are going to create really amazing things out of this that we have never even thought about. And I think just as importantly, it's not all on the merchants, by the way, because Shopify is a platform, right? We're a platform for app developers, and we want agencies using us and all sorts of people who themselves are really, really good at using Shopify and building stuff out of the internet can come to Shopify and say, I want to make a living helping merchants be awesome. And now I have new superpowers, right, with Web3. So I'm going to create cool stuff that we've honestly never even thought about.
I see. What do I expect from Shopify in the next 12, 18 months? I mean, I'm trying to recap. First, I can imagine a Shopify wallet ready. Let's say that. I don't know what is the right way to say that, but a platform where if my user want to use a wallet, well, you can have an e-commerce platform that enables that behavior. I also saw the presentation at Bitcoin conference that Lightning has been integrated with Shopify. So on the payment side, that's also another interesting thing. Is there anything else that you think is very important?
Okay, so first of all, I love the way that what was the word you used? You said making Shopify wallet ready.
Yeah, wallet ready.
Okay, so that's almost exactly the same words that like we use on my team. We say we're making Shopify wallet aware. I actually like your word even better. Maybe we'll steal like wallet ready. Like that really gets to this idea, which is like when we say we're making Shopify wallet aware, like we mean both a very specific thing and then also a very big thing. The very specific thing that we mean is, well, this explosion of meaning and of identity and of community that's happening in Web3 is like, it's taking off. Like there's no stopping this thing, right? That train has left the station, it's going. And so we want to bring commerce to where those communities are, right? And so this idea of connect wallet, unlock storefront into these incredible things is like, that is just going to go to the moon, right? So I would, first of all, to expect right now, it's like the brands who are making incredible experiences out of this are really, really like we're taking great care to work with like the very, very best and most special Web3 brands to show the world how good this can be. But I would expect this to get bigger and bigger and bigger, like as more people figure out this is a really fun kind of commerce and buyers really like it. So there's that. But then there's this much bigger idea of making Shopify wallet aware. And when I want to tell you about that, I really want to emphasize this fact that Shopify is not just a website builder, right? It's also a platform for all kinds of software developers and app developers to go make apps that do interesting mechanics and can now use, like blockchains and buyers' wallets as a new source of input for what kind of commerce experiences they want to make. So this is where I really want to talk to your audience, actually, because I'm sure you have lots of app developers in your audience who watch your show and say, hey, I want to tell you about something pretty cool that you can go do, which is right now we have thought of maybe 1% of the apps that are possible and really cool that use, like what's in the buyer's wallet as an input for creating a kind of commerce experience. We've thought about 1% of those use cases at best, right? We want you to come to us and say, I can think of some, and I bet you there are going to be a lot of merchants who are going to really like them. So we'll put some links in the show notes for how you can get in touch with us because we really want to talk to you. Because it's really like, look, we can start by saying like, hey, we can show you these basic kinds of token gated commerce and what's really cool about them. But more importantly, we want to open all of this up to all of the creative developers of the world to say, you go make this, right? Like the sky is the limit for what we're going to see out of this. So when you say like, what should we expect out of Shopify? What I should tell you is things we've never even dreamed of that are going to be incredible. And that all start from connect my wallet to the store. And then all of a sudden the world starts magically opening up.
Help me to explain to my audience why connect a wallet is different than login onto Shopify or onto an e-commerce platform. I know that this objection will come. People say, but I can log in and you give me special offers.
So this is you're asking really, really good questions, Monty. I love all of these. So this is a great question. Like Why can't this just be a customer account? Okay, so I'll tell you a couple of big reasons why this is very different from a customer account. So first of all, like your customer is like, unless you have first of all, let me actually backtrack to say, like, we would love to make customer accounts better, right, at Shopify, because customer accounts also do all kinds of useful things, right? They're a great way for merchants to keep track of who you are and what your orders are and what you've ordered in the past, and maybe keep track of like, oh, I know your shipping address, and so I can speed you through checkout and things like that. And lots of merchants already do this. And we also have Shop Pay, which is our way of saying like, hey, like here's a buyer account for you that knows all this stuff about you that can help make your commerce experience better. All of that is also very useful. I don't want to mean to say that like customer accounts aren't useful. They're great, but they do a different job. Right? They do a job that is within the context of this one buyer, one merchant relationship. It's like, here's a bunch of stuff that I can know and remember that's useful for the next time I come visit your store. This is really nice. Web3 wallets are different, right? Because they are open to everyone and everything, right? My Web3 wallet is not just, like stuff that knows about your store, right? It's who I am in my whole life, or maybe just a part of my life that I want to present. Maybe I have a couple of different wallets, and in one wallet I have my ETH balance and I have a couple of NFTs that are in this community, and then in a different wallet maybe I have a whole bunch of like Polygon NFTs that are like coupons, right? And maybe in a third wallet is like a different aspect of myself, right?
Yeah.
What's really fascinating about this is that this is not closed to a relationship of like one buyer, one merchant, or even like closed even to the Shopify ecosystem. This is open to all of Web3 and all of the meaning that can go into a smart contract that's an NFT, right? This is what's so powerful about this, is that let me present it to you as like, I have an Atom Bomb Squad NFT. I'm part of the Atom Bomb Squad in the hundreds. That NFT lives in the open, and it has all of this social meaning and context associated with it that is not confined to the original mint of the NFT. It's a function of everything that this community does because it's open and it's something that everybody builds on together. You can't get that in a customer account, right? That's just inside this tiny little box. Like, customer accounts are for utility, right? Like, customer accounts are great at doing very useful things, but what we're talking about is more important than utility, right? It's about community, right? Community doesn't live inside a customer account, right? But community lives inside your wallet and inside everyone's wallets, right? That's what's so important. So when I say like, oh, we're going to make like your wallet and the stuff that's in it accessible to developers who want to use that as an input for creating experiences on the storefront, I would like for everybody to think like this complements, right? This doesn't really compete with the customer account. This is just a very, very different thing you can do. Like, the customer accounts, here's all these useful things you can do. Your wallet is, here are all these incredible community things you can do.
Got it. I've interviewed Michael Saylor recently, and he was talking about the fact that by connecting a wallet, basically, you would defeat all the spam on social media platforms and so on. So I'm really fascinated by the fact that a very, let's say, simple thing like a wallet that you think, all right, it's just a wallet, potentially has such a big impact on the future of our behavior and the way we interact online on platforms, on commerce.
Well, first of all, spam always finds a way.
Yeah.
Law of the internet. But like, I think one line that I have heard a lot and that I would like repeating is this idea of like, in Web 2, you log into the website, and in Web 3, the website logs into you. It's sort of this nice backwards way of thinking about what the relationship is. And similarly, it's like, when you connect your wallet to a storefront, what's really happening is that the storefront is logging into you. And it's like, oh, you're not some random buyer, like you're this person. Right. Like, I really like to think of it like, when you think about like NFTs as like non-fungible tokens, it's like, what you should really think about is non-fungible buyers, right? Like, when I connect my wallet, I'm a non-fungible buyer, right? I'm exactly me, right? And so when the storefront logs into me, when I connect my wallet, now all of a sudden this very, very special thing can happen that is simultaneously built on something that is public, right? All of this incredible like public stuff that is getting together, that's being built out in the open, but also is very private to me, because like only I can sign with my wallet, hopefully, right? If I haven't been hacked, it's like only I can actually be me, right? And that's what's really cool about this.
What do you think about wallet situation for a mainstream adoption? Because if I talk with, let's say, normal human beings, not my circle of tech people, I mean, no one has a wallet, or yes, I mean, they say Bitcoin, they maybe have like, I don't know, a Coinbase account, but they speak like, well, when my bank will give me a wallet, a safe wallet, and you think, wow, it's exactly the opposite. You don't want to have, but still, if you are the owner, you also have a lot of problems, hacks, scams. You forgot, the keys, and
Exactly.
I don't know. There are so many problems for adoption. So, what do you think has to happen to make wallets really mainstream, and so people use it, and that's it, and you unlock the door?
Okay. So there are a couple things that are happening now, I think, that are really promising. But so first of all, more wallets and more kinds of wallets and more ways of getting people wallets is like, I know there are some people who are a little bit more purist than I am. We're like, no, like it has to be self-custodied or else this is not the real thing. It has to be this. Honestly, if people are asking for a certain kind of wallet because like this is what they want, it's like they're probably right. Like, let's get lots and lots of things, right? It's like, it's generally good for this ecosystem, for this community, for there to be lots of versions, right? As opposed to only one version. I'm pretty steadfast about that. It's like, if you care about decentralization, you should care about there being lots of kinds of wallets and lots of ways of thinking about this, I think, because that tends to be healthier than a way where there's only one way to do it. But in terms of what has to happen for this to really gain adoption, I think one thing that is happening, honestly, is that the UX of wallets is getting leaps and bounds better just over the last couple years. I think.
Sure.
If you look at, so I would say that like a really big step forward in people being able to actually see what's going on in a wallet was with MetaMask, obviously, giving you this sense of like, okay, I'm in the web browser window and now I'm inside like the web page of the dApp, and then I can log in with my MetaMask and here it is, right? And I can see that I'm in the page, right? Like that was a really big step forward for people being able to think about like, okay, like I'm doing my stuff on the internet and now my wallet can go into the stuff. Right. Meanwhile, some really interesting stuff is happening on mobile, right? Because of, the classic reasons where it's like mobile and web are backwards in a lot of ways. Where it's like, if you look on mobile and if you look at, my favorite mobile wallet, which is Rainbow Wallet on mobile is almost the exact opposite, right? It's like, it doesn't go into the web page. It's like all the stuff go into Rainbow, right? Yep. Rainbow isn't like a browser extension. Rainbow is the browser, period. Right, all the stuff goes into Rainbow, and then I can go do stuff like, if I want to register my ENS name from inside Rainbow or something like that. Like that makes a lot of sense, right? To be able like, hey, I'm in the environment where I can sign with my private keys because they're right here, and then like Web3 can come to me rather than me having to go out into this world and connect the wall and do stuff. We're gonna like these are both really interesting ways of thinking about how to navigate this world that I think ultimately users are gonna go with what makes intuitive sense here. But to me, I'm tremendously excited about what these UX improvements are going to unlock. Because it's like, look, like a lot of the foundations for these things are obviously they're still getting built, and hopefully with this gradual move to things like Ethereum 2.0 with its ability to support a lot more stuff and a lot more different kinds of, like thinking about the idea of like what becomes possible when there's an e-commerce shard or things like that, where we can locally agree on a certain kind of e-commerce stuff. Maybe that makes things easier. What do L2s make easier? But I think all these things to ordinary people are less important than just wallet UX getting better, right? Which is happening, right? Like when you can actually see what you're doing, it's like the web browser. It's like you said earlier on in the interview. It's like, the web browser happened and all of a sudden people could see, oh, I get what this is because I can do it, right? It's behavior. Like that to me is it, right? Like technology doesn't really like shape stuff. It's behavior that shapes stuff. And now the behavior is really starting.
By the way, I was expecting for the merge in June. I thought, come on, it's coming, and it's not happening in June. We'll see. I mean, but it should be here any month now. I don't know why.
I have an ongoing bet going with my head of engineering over when the merge is going to happen over one beer, and it's a very contentious beer. So we're going to see who wins. I'll update you next year.
We'll find out. 5 more minutes, and then I'll let you go, Alex.
All right. This has been great. Thank you so much already. This has just been such a good conversation.
Alex. You are unlocking my vision about these topics. Metaverse is a buzzword. Every 2 seconds is coming out. The Sandbox, I think yesterday I read that they are raising around $400 million. And I mean, metaverse. What is Shopify and your take on this metaverse topic? That on one side is very hot, brands are going there. On the other side, my personal experience, I go into some metaverse sometimes, and I think, all right, let's find out. I don't know. At the moment, is an experience that you don't spend much time there. So, what's your take there?
I mean, I'll give you one sort of joke that's not really a joke line, which is, I don't know what the metaverse is, but if there's commerce there, then we'll show up.
Right.
Like, look, I think the metaverse can honestly mean a lot of different things depending on what agenda people are trying to push. But I think we have a pretty simple purpose in life as Shopify, which is like, look, commerce is a very special thing, and places aren't really places until there's commerce there, right? Like, if you think about a village where there's no commerce, is it really a place? Not yet, right? It needs commerce, right? Then it's real, right? Like, similarly, it's like, I think like our mindset is like, commerce makes places better, right? In a really, really important way. Because if I can sort of get a little bit philosophical here, it's like, the reason why commerce is so important for us as people when we talk to each other and when we build relationships with each other is because commerce, the important kinds of commerce, is a challenge, right? Like, when I come to you in your store, it's like, we have a challenge we're going to do together, which is, can we build this relationship, and can we decide that I'm going to buy your thing, I'm going to give you some money, I'm going to take this product, and I'm going to love it, and you're going to be happy, and I'm going to be happy. Like, that's not actually the easiest thing in the world to do, because we have to build trust with each other, and we have to do this challenge. But you know what happens at the end of it is that challenge leaves an imprint on us, which is, it creates a relationship, right? And then when I come back to you the next time, right, that challenge is going to be there, right, leaving an imprint on us, because we're going to go do it again, right? It felt good, right? It feels really, this is how people create these bonds and these communities and these relationships that are not built on passing transactions, but are built on shared challenge that we've done together. Right? This is why commerce is so important, right? Is it creates the opportunity for shared challenge that we do together. Right, that's the basis of so much goodwill among strange. Like, you're over in Europe, I'm in Canada, right? We've never spoken before today, but you know what? Like, we've done a challenge together of going and putting on a show together, and this is going to create a little impression on both of us. And the next time we come back, it's going to be there, and that's really special, you know.
And we'll need to release our NFT, you know, original NFT that will unlock a premium.
And so just to bring this home for a second, like, I really think that our role to play here, if you think about, like, in this, as things get more and more digital and more in these virtual worlds that are a little bit farther removed from physical human contact, what is going to be the way that we're going to create these challenges we can do together that creates these meaning, right? That all of this really goodwill. The answer is, commerce is that thing. Right. And I really think that, like, token gated commerce is an especially fun way of doing that thing, because it's so obviously this mechanic, right? Show up to the storefront. Here's the challenge. I'm going to connect my wallet. Is this NFT going to work? Does it unlock it? Yes, it does. Right. Like, all right. And it works because we have that relationship, right? Of both being in the same NFT collection, or both being a part of the same web of meaning, right? That lives on a smart contract somewhere, right? That feeling is just the best. Right? We did it together, right? It wasn't like, look, could I have made that commerce easier? Sure. I could have it not be token gated. It'd be easier, but it would be less meaningful, right? The meaning is it. The challenge we do together, it's it. That's what brings out the best in people, right? Whether we're close or whether we're far, and, like, brings the whole internet together to do this thing. So, and that to me is just so fun, right? It's so fun getting up every morning and getting to do this.
Powerful. Token gated commerce. Powerful concept. Alex, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure, and hope to see you soon.
Monty, thank you so much. And I think we'll put in the show notes a whole bunch of links about how to get in touch with us. As you know, like, Shopify really, really wants to go bring the whole world to this stuff. We're currently working hard to bring a lot of these things out into Europe and beyond. Please check into the show notes for links of how to get in touch with us if you want to start working with token gated commerce, if you want to get into NFTs on your Shopify storefront, more support, if you are an app developer and you want to help make these things, or if you want to come work on my team. We're always hiring. So
fantastic.
Links in the show notes, everyone.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Monty, thank you. This has been an absolute pleasure. Take care.
I'll see you soon.